Now, yesterday we talked about the breaking news that Shamima Begum, the schoolgirl who at 15 ran away to join the Islamic State group in Syria, and we asked should she be allowed to return to the UK to fight the decision to revoke her citizenship. Today's front pages are full of headlines like this. This is the front of the Mail today. Jihadi bride coming back. So why do our judges put the interests of terror suspects ahead of the safety of the rest of us? The front of the Sun, fury as judges let Begum return. 150 extremists could now follow jihadis' welcome. Now, indeed, many of you at home agreeing with a lot of what is being said in the newspapers. Stella wrote in to say she should stay where she is. She went to fight against this country, made her bed. She should now lie in it. Carolyn has said, why on earth would it even be considered to allow her back? She has no right, as she left the airport that day and knew what was coming. I mean, Shamima has said that she wants to come home and face trial in the UK and needs therapy to deal with everything that she's been through. In an interview, she said the only crime she committed was going to Syria. It's very divisive conversation. Shamima has her views, her family have their views, and it seems like the rest of the nation have made their mind up already, Kaye. It's a very, very difficult one to deal with, politically speaking as well.
It sure is. But the fact is, right now, that's actually all we know, that she flew to Syria with two other girls. She was 15 at the time, another 15-year-old and another 16-year-old. You do wonder how they managed to get on that plane to go to Turkey, which was a well-known gateway to Syria. So I think we have to ask how intelligent our intelligence services are. But when we say she's coming back, she is coming back to face justice. And that's the important thing, because we don't know exactly what went on, and it would be useful for us to know. So it's not a case of Shamima Begum is going to come back and she's going to walk free and she's going to go back to a life and create havoc, if that's indeed her intention. She's coming back to face justice, and we should all want to defend justice and make up our mind once we know the facts, rather than based on basically what's a very convenient story for the government, because they haven't covered themselves in glory here, and it is very, very inconvenient for them to have us all pile on a young woman who at the age of 20 has had 3 lost pregnancies or 1 baby, and the 2 friends that she went with, let's remember, have been killed in drone attacks. So let's focus on what our government is doing rather than allowing them to hang up this girl to distract us.
Yeah, but I watched a couple of the interviews that she did, and she didn't actually, in my opinion, show remorse for what has happened, and we've lost...
But Kelly, you don't know the conditions of those interviews. You don't know who was there. I was about to say that,
Kaye. Give me a second. We're not aware of what's going on behind the scenes of where she's being interviewed and the situation that she's actually in, the conditions that she's living in. That I understand. But what my point is that we've got to look at the damage that's been caused in our country, and we have to reflect upon that. She says all that she's done wrong is going to Syria. Actually, there's evidence to show that she's actually made the garments that have actually been used to then for people to for suicide bombers to
So
action.
Kelly, bring her back.
Agreed,
and so
Kaye.
she can be in a court of law in Britain, and let's hear the facts and let's hear the evidence and let's make a balanced decision based on the facts rather than cherry-picking little bits that we're being fed.
I agree with you. I do think she does need to come back, and I do believe that she does need to be tried. But equally, I think the British public have a right to feel uncomfortable about that. In 2019, when Usman Khan, when he bombed, he stabbed, the stabbing that happened in London Bridge, he was originally imprisoned, right? And then he was released. So originally he was classed as never to be released unless he no longer was a threat. But actually he was released and was a threat and then went on to commit another crime.
But Kelly, what's the benefit of taking other cases and trying to make some moral equivalence?
But
we have to judge
possibly...
each case on its facts.
I understand that, yeah, but we do have to take other cases into consideration. If we've already done something like release somebody...
Some murderers serve their time, go back into the community and then lead blameless lives. Some murderers go back into the community and kill again. That's
do you know
the
what,
way
Kaye?
people
I think
operate.
that there was
Absolutely.
obvious negligence in the case that you're talking about, and a part of me feels as though this whole scenario that we're watching now is almost to deflect away from the, you know, the way things could have been handled much better in the past when it comes in terms of our own terrorism, how we manage terrorism. And a part of me feels like, would this even be a story had not so many mistakes been made and so many people lost lives when they didn't need to? Would we even be talking about this woman? Because lots of people go to Syria all of the time and then try to come back, and this happens all throughout the year. So what is it that they're trying to deflect our attention from that makes this case so specific? Do you know what I mean?
How did one 16-year-old and two 15-year-old girls from an area where there had been terrorist activity, the intelligence services are supposed to be monitoring people, how did they get on a plane to Turkey?
I can't
How did
even
that
take
happen?
if my children want to go out of the country with one of their parents, they have to have a letter and a signed bill. You know, I don't know. That's what I mean. I think that we have failed in some areas, and sometimes instead of admitting and saying, you know what, we didn't do a good job here and we could have done things better and we could have done it this way round, we try and make an example of one person and deflect all the attention over there so that everyone's not looking at the mistakes.
And when Savage Javid took that decision to take away her citizenship, he knew, he was told that that would be legally inadmissible, and it was likely that this would happen. But of course, he was in the running to be PM at that point, and it was a huge statement at a time that Britain was facing a lot of terrorist activity, which I in no way condone whatsoever. It's criminal, it's horrific, and it should be dealt with in the courts of law.
I think as well there will be a lot of families reading these stories and listening to the updates on this young woman who have lost family members or indeed friends in terrorist attacks in this country or indeed further afield. And I think they maybe, there is an aspect where they go, well, we can't get our loved ones back. There is no justice for us. So why should I in my country provide justice for people who have chosen a certain path? And I think that seems to be coming through in an awful lot of the stuff online, certainly.
We have to defend justice. You know, I mean, if
but I
my
think that's the
daughter,
problem,
God forbid,
Kaye,
had been raped, I would want every rapist castrated. Of course I would. But that's not justice.
Yeah, justice does need to be served. I agree. How much is it going to cost us for that justice to be served? She made this choice at 15. Yes, we can say that she was radicalised, she was impressionable, she was young. Indeed, she was. I agree with that. I agree with that, Kaye. I agree with what you're saying. But this is now going to become our cost.
And so it should be, because I feel like we have probably let this child down at some point. You know, I look at my sons and I look at Zach, who's 12. In a couple of years' time, he'll be the same age. I think it is possible that he can be coerced into doing things that he shouldn't be doing. You know, I think that I would be naive in thinking that he will never come into harm's way in that sense. So if those things do happen, what are we doing around these children? How are we getting involved in these people's lives? We look at the school that she came from, and lots of children at that school ended up in the same scenario. So where is our authorities? Where are our child support services? What are they, when we're seeing these trends and these patterns, how are we getting in and stopping it from going any further? I don't think we invest enough in early on, so we do end up having to pay the cost later on down the line when we're bringing them back and trialling them and then trying to rehabilitate these children. Really, we should be doing that from the get-go. We should be going into these schools and going, hold on a second, that's not right. We need to stop this before 100 children end up going to Syria and joining terrorist organisations. You know, I think, I don't know, but I would... It seems to me that at that age you really are young and impressionable, and someone can sell you something, and if your life is looking not so great at the time, or you feel like it's not so great at the time, I really do think it's easy to slip into, and whether it be terrorism or a gang or, you know, into something you shouldn't be in. And it's such a tough to be able to say that all the responsibility lies within that child. I think, yes, you do have to take responsibility for your actions no matter what age, but I do also think that at a younger age you're more impressionable and more likely to be hit by those things.
Okay.